I'm going to be leaving the United States soon. I'll be leaving behind my EMT job, my motorcycle, my bedroom, my guitar and cowboy boots, my 11-volume History of Civilization by William Durant, my cigar collection, my hand-rolled cigarettes, the city of Eugene, everyone I know here, for a mystery island that I'll be revealing later in the video. And just for some context, I want to kind of explain where I'm coming from here if you're not familiar with the channel. I spent the last 4 years getting a neuroscience degree from the University of Oregon, and I worked as an EMT after I graduated a little early. So I guess it was a little under 4 years. I graduated at the end of the first quarter of that year, worked as an EMT at Mid Valley Ambulance. For the rest of the year, worked as an EMT at events. And now, like I said, I'm going abroad. So the reason I'm leaving is because of what I experienced working at the ambulance company and sort of just my current state between trying to do research, other things, of just being very unpeaceful, if that makes sense. Specifically, I was working night shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and I wasn't really sleeping well. I remember vividly drinking coffee on the way to Portland at like 3 in the morning. And Eugene to Portland, if anyone's not familiar with Oregon, is about a 2-hour long drive. So I was driving from Eugene to Portland, drinking a whole thermos full of coffee. I was using Zins a lot back then, more than I did recently, although I am on a 2-day break from that. And I'm planning to continue that during my travels. But I was like using lots of nicotine, drinking a ton of caffeine, and I remember I would sometimes fall asleep on the job or when I got home and had a very irregular sleep schedule, and I would wake up with this really intense feeling. If you've ever taken a nap in the middle of the day and woken up and felt groggy, it was like that, but 10 times more extreme. And my stomach would hurt. I would feel just awful all the time. The opposite of peaceful, stressed about getting to work on time, stressed about staying awake, even when I was just trying to drive the ambulance. And so I began to seek something a little bit different now during this time in my life, which is peace. And now I'm going to read a little excerpt from a poem that I think will define my experience on the island, which, stay tuned, I'm going to tell you really soon where the island is. I saw my life branching out before me, each path a ripe purple fig. One of love, one of art, one of adventure. I wanted them all. But as I waited to choose, the figs began to blacken and fall, until only the empty tree remained. This is an abridged version of Sylvia Plath's Fig Tree, just because the actual poem is a little long. But I'm planning to do a cinematic video where just the poem is reading from clips from my travels, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. That's my focus now, is to find peace, more so than, the drive that drove me through most of college, which is fear of missing out on opportunity, I think there's an intense fear that comes as you're navigating your youth to try not to feel like you're missing out on stuff. And that is part of it, I'll be honest. I don't want to miss these years where I'm able to travel. But part of it is also just to be somewhere very peaceful, where there's waves, where there's the ocean, where I can go surfing, where I can maybe meet new young people, but talk to them in a way that's not very stressful because I'll be leaving, I mean, it's not like there's much at stake. If something goes wrong, nothing to stress about. Go to another island. So the island is called Tanna Island, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. It's right by New Zealand and Australia, and I'm going to be visiting all of those islands, If I'm being honest, part of the reason I decided to say, the island is so that people would be curious and continue watching into the later part of the video. So if you're still here, you're a real one. But I'm going to be checking out all those islands, surfing at all of them, talking to lots of people, reading books on my iPad, and I'll be making content about that. So as a little more background information, if you don't know me, I'm applying to medical school right now, and I've applied to 27 different schools, and I've interviewed at 3 of them. So I am leaving everything behind, but temporarily. I'm going to come back to the United States and hopefully be in medical school. But I'll be logging my journey as I read things, as I travel, and making videos about the history of medicine, about the places I visit, maybe talking about healthcare system there versus United States, these sorts of topics. So, if you're interested in following me on my journey to becoming a doctor, and you're interested in following me on my travels, and maybe you're interested in learning about the history of medicine, learning about new scientific developments as they come across in my weekly Friday series called Science in the News, hit the buttons below this video so that you get notifications when I post videos, and so you can stay in the loop, and so you can help me grow, so I can eventually make more content, make live streams. So thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for my gap year travels.